Okay, so after years of people requesting, I finally get a Bates reel on the channel, and it's not just any Bates reel. It is the extremely popular EDC model. And full disclosure, this was not sent to me by Bates. It was sent to me by a longtime friend of the channel, Billy, who has sent several other badass reels for me to review. So I want everyone to thank Billy for making this review possible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link to where you can get the Bates EDC from the guys over at Lake Pro Tackle, because I believe they have a pretty close relationship with Bates. So that's going to be pinned at the top of the comments. But anyway, according to Billy, as soon as he got the reel, he just opened up the box to make sure everything was in there. He closed it back up and sent it right to me. So let us get into this. And this is a very, very nice box. Looks like army green color. It's got some solid styrofoam padding. And pow, look at that. So presentation wise, this is top notch. Definitely much better than anything you're going to get from SHIMANO or DAIWA. Got the Bates logo there in this styrofoam, but let's pull this reel out. And it is in here pretty snug. And you can see it does come with a reel cover down at the bottom. Alright, so first impressions. This reel is very small and compact. It's got a black matte finish that feels good. It's not one of these matte finishes that feel rough in the hand. It's very pleasant to touch. Turning the handle, wow, it's pretty smooth, very smooth actually. There's a side view. It's very stealthy and nondescript. No crazy colors or anything like that. The only bit of shiny bling, I guess you would call it, is this silver trim piece that's covering the gearbox. Thumb bar, solid, no mush. Handle is huge. It's gotta be at least 96 millimeters, if not 100. So yeah, very no nonsense design, and build quality is excellent. I don't hear any kind of rattles or creaks or clacking when I shake the reel. So yeah, I'm gonna do my customary study of the reel, check out all the features, design language, etc., etc., and I will get back to you. So I took a few minutes to study the EDC, and let's go over what I found. Now, let's knock out the specs real quick because they're pretty high. The EDC has an aluminum frame with composite side plates, and this differs from other Bates reels that are full aluminum. And another difference is that the frame on the EDC, I believe, is cast according to Bates and not machined like their other reels, which are much more expensive. Now the overall design is very safe and generically handsome, and really the only thing that stands out are going to be these I guess cutouts right here and right there. And obviously the Bates EDC is mimicking the styling of Shimano's mighty METANIUM DC, which cost almost 2.5 times as much as this reel right here. But we got black with silver and some chrome accents. Now it's going to come in 3 different gear ratios. It's got a very high bearing count at 12+1, and Bates considers this a 100 size. Now I'm not sure if they rate their size by line capacity or physical size of the reel, but the reel is very small, compact, and very comfortable to palm. Once again, the satin matte finish is pleasant to the touch, and I'm sure it's going to help gripping this reel on those long summer days when you're sweating. But let's get to the features. Now, the first feature is that the EDC has a tapered line guide, if the camera will focus. So the entrance is bigger than the exit. It's not a huge line guide, but it's tapered nonetheless. The handle, I found out, is 100 millimeters, so it's massive, but it's skeletonized and beveled, so very stylish. And it's got one of those really stylish lock nuts, whereas some reels that would be competing against the EDC would have some kind of ugly plastic. But no, not the EDC. And let's check out these knobs. Very distinctive design. They're massive, paddle shaped. They have some grip, and they are very comfortable. Now, not as soft as Shimano Septon, but yeah, I like these knobs. Now, another thing I found out was that everything clicks on this reel. So of course, we got the drag star that clicks. Drag star is made of composite or graphite, if you were wondering. But I will have to say that this is the first sign of, I guess, poor refinement on the EDC. The drag star, you can hear that the clicks are very light or muted, and it feels very unrefined and cheap turning this drag star. Now, I'm not sure if just this particular reel or if all EDCs have that issue, but yeah, I just needed to point that out. Now, it's got a very small spool tension. It's got the Bates logo. Don't know if you can see it. Kind of lasered into it. Once again, very METANIUM DC-like. This is very thin, but it does click. Unlike the $500 plus METANIUM DC. And of course, we have a drag clicker. And it's a very nice one. It's not too loud, very refined feeling. Not quite JDM, but better than a lot of other reels that have a drag clicker. But the big deal about this reel is going to be right here. The braking system, which is a digital system. Now they call it DAB, or I think digitally assisted braking. And it's strange that they gave this reel digital brakes considering their other reels are much more expensive. But that gives us a perfect segue into examining the spool and the brakes. Now, of course, we got to get a weight on the reel before we get into all the important stuff. And according to Bates, the EDC is supposed to weigh 6.2 ounces. So let's see what the scale says. 6.48, almost 6.5. Let's weigh that again. Try to put the whole reel on the scale. Nope, still 6.48. A little bit heavier than it's supposed to be, but in the grand scheme of things, still very lightweight. Now, before we get to the spool, let's talk about the DAB brakes. Now, these are Shimano style, where they're self-recharging, thank God. There's no app connectivity. And once again, I say thank God, because that's pretty much a gimmick after you've tried it a few times. And as far as adjustments go, everything is controlled with this outside dial. Now, if you can see the ghost writing there, it says maximum up here and minimum right here. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can see the other ghost writing again, but yeah, max, min. And then you got all these dots, very reminiscent of Shimano. And this brake dial, or the adjustments, are, I'm gonna say, semi-stepless. So let me show you what I mean. Now, if you want to start turning the brakes up from minimum, to get out of minimum, the dial actually clicks. Well, it didn't click, but if you want to get to minimum, it actually does click. But getting out of minimum, strange, there's no click. But in between the minimum and maximum, there are no clicks. So it is stepless, except when you get to maximum, there seems to be 2 clicks. Now, if anyone out there owns the EDC, let me know if your brakes do the same thing. And then when you get out of maximum, there's only 1 click. So I'm not sure why that is. I'm gonna check the box for any kind of instructions. Maybe they'll explain why. But yeah, I prefer the no clicks stepless design when it comes to adjustability on the DC brakes. But now let's get to the spool. So to get to the spool, just take this latch, flip it, and the side plate comes off. And it takes a bit of effort to do it, which I guess is a good thing. There we go. There's the brakes. Very familiar looking. But let's take a look at the spool. Now you can see it's got a short spool shaft. There's a DC brake mechanism on it. Spool bearing. It's not very deep. I wouldn't say it's quite finesse, but it doesn't hold a ton of line. And according to Bates, it's gonna hold 100 yards of 12-pound mono or 30-pound braid. Now, when I was inspecting the spool, it feels very, very lightweight for a DC spool. And thankfully, Bates went with a more standard 34mm diameter. So this doesn't have one of those small 32 or 30mm spools. So hopefully long casting should be a breeze for this reel. But you can see the spools are very ported in the middle. Of course, we're gonna try to get a weight. Okay, so with the spool bearing, we're looking at 12.5 grams. So that's actually much lighter than the spool on the METANIUM DC. And I'm gonna attempt to pull this bearing off. Okay, so I successfully removed the spool bearing, but unfortunately, Billy, if you're watching this, when I was taking the spool bearing off, there's this teeny tiny O-ring there that broke. So yeah, let me know if you want me to get you a new spool or not. But without the bearing, you're looking at 10.88 grams, which by DC standards is very, very lightweight. In fact, I'm gonna put up a graphic on the screen for you just to let you know where the spool weight of the EDC stands versus all of Shimano's DC reels. And I think the only thing that comes close is going to be the current ALDEBARAN DC at like 12.5 grams. So I'm very excited to see what this big lightweight spool can do. So let's wrap this video up with the one thing I haven't covered yet about the Bates EDC, and that of course is going to be the price. The EDC retails for only $199, so that makes it the cheapest reel you can get in America that uses digital brakes. Now that honor used to go to Shimano's very old SLX DC that started out at $189, but now the price has ballooned up to $225 for the same reel that came out way back in 2019. So at this price, I can see why it appears to be so popular, and at the time of me editing this video, it seems to be sold out on Bates's website. But let's not jump to conclusions, because at the $200-ish price point, the competition is extremely stiff. You have the various TATULAs from DAIWA around this price. You have Shimano's mighty CURADOs, the 200 and the 150, and I just reviewed the LEWS Custom Gen 3, which is also priced at $199, and it's pretty impressive. Also, KASTKING has sent me a reel that will compete against the EDC that I'll be featuring in a future video very soon. But if you insist on digital brakes, the only real competition at this price point is going to be the SLX DC, which is bigger, heavier, more expensive, and has the limited IDC4 braking. So after I take the EDC out for its casting impressions video, it's going to go head to head up against the SLX DC in a battle for the $200-ish DC supremacy. Alright guys, thanks a lot.